Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to the Point. I'm your host, Noah Warren. Happy to be back with all of you after a big weekend. Great weekend of sports. A lot to dive into today. So much to chat about. Boy, I have some opinions. I have some betting news to let you guys know. Just my whole betting weekend. What a great and awful experience that was. Just a calamity of positive and negative. We'll go through it all. We're going to talk two teams that won this weekend that got wins that were important, that were signature wins for me, and how you develop, how you show that you're better than the rest of the NFL. I saw that yesterday when I talked about those two teams. I'm not even going to mention this guy's name because I'm going into great detail on this player. I've talked about him before, and this team should be a playoff team, but they have him at quarterback. They have this guy at quarterback. They should be putting in a veteran. Like I've already said, they might have a better chance of making the playoffs. I know it definitively. Monday Night Football tonight. We'll chat that. NCAA if we have time. What a weekend in NCAA football. What a Saturday. Phenomenal stuff. And we got some NBA news. A lot of injuries in Philly. One of my favorites, Tyrese Maxey, out for a couple. Watching that game Friday night. He's cooking. 25 first half points. 49 seconds left in the second quarter, goes over on his ankle. Just breaks your heart. James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid are all out in Philly. Woof. So we have a lot to dive into today, but I want to start off the show talking about the Monktonian, which is a major midget hockey tournament that takes place in Moncton, New Brunswick every year. I've been going to the Monktonian since I was a very young kid. I watched my cousin Sawyer play at the tournament. I've watched my cousin Casey play at the tournament. I've seen a lot of great players go through the Monktonian. Guys ended up in the National Hockey League. And what a great weekend it was. I went Saturday and Sunday morning. I watched some really impressive kids. And honestly, I think the game of hockey's in good hands here in the Maritimes. 3 of the 4 finalists, all from the Maritimes division. Charlottetown ended up winning the tournament, beating Fredericton in the final. But St. John was also in the semifinal and the Halifax Max. So 4 teams from the Maritimes, technically. From Atlantic Canada. Halifax does not play against, obviously, Charlottetown and St. John, but they were the 4th team. Moncton lost to the Vitoes in the quarterfinal. So it was a lot of really good players from not too far away. Some really impressive play and some guys that we will see in the QMJHL as early as next year. But it's always a really well put together tournament. A lot of great volunteers. And just for the kids that put it all on the ice, 2 overtime games in the semifinals that were just nip and tuck, really close games. Those are really, really fun to watch. And then the final that I didn't get to see live because I came home to watch football, Charlottetown took down Fredericton. These 2 teams play each other all the time. So there's a lot of animosity there and a lot of bitterness, I'm sure. And Charlottetown beat St. John in the semifinal, and they play each other so many times this season. So a lot of history between these 3 of the last 4 teams, and ultimately Charlottetown Bulk Islanders come out on top. So just great stuff from that tournament. I always enjoy going. Kind of a tradition to me to go catch at least a few games, and really impressive stuff from those kids. Also, outside of the NFL, last night I watched the Grey Cup, which if you did not watch the game, you missed out because that was a damn good football game last night. The Grey Cup always delivers. That's one thing. You tune into a Super Bowl, it's not always going to be good. There are crap Super Bowls, and sometimes you remember the halftime show more than you remember the actual game. It just happens. The Rams defeating the Bengals last year, was Eminem and that halftime show more memorable? Might be. I remember the Aaron Donald play, pardon me. Don't really remember any big Matthew Stafford plays, but I remember Eminem taking a knee. I remember 50 Cent coming from upside down. The Grey Cup seems to deliver. Always. It's always Interesting, has twists and turns. The fourth quarter, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had a 10-point lead. They had full control of the game. Janorian Grant had just returned a 104-yard punt return for a touchdown. Back-to-back weeks where he had a punt return for a touchdown. But the Argonauts come up with an interception, which leads to points. And then Chad Kelly, backup quarterback, former Denver Bronco, first-round pick, who's gone through his tough times in football, comes off the bench for the Argonauts because McLeod Bethel Thompson, their starting quarterback, injured his thumb, separated his thumb in that game. In comes Chad Kelly, goes on a touchdown drive to put them up 24-23. And then with 49 seconds, the Toronto Argonauts blocked a potential game-winning field goal from Mark Leggio. Oakman got his paw on the football, ends it. They got to take a couple knees, and the Argonauts have won their last 7 Grey Cups when they've had the opportunity. In the last 7 appearances, they've won all 7. They find a way to win these games. Congratulations to the Argonauts. Congratulations to the CFL for getting through another season. I've mentioned this before, but I didn't know if we were going to get CFL again because of the pandemic. Because of COVID and everything that was going through, and this league wasn't making any money. It's positive to see that this league is still going strong. That you're seeing guys like Nathan Rourke getting opportunities in the National Football League, working out for teams this week. Stories like Enoch Muamba, who, if you don't know him, was drafted first overall in the CFL over a decade ago. He went to Santa Fe University here in the Maritimes, and now he's a two-time Grey Cup MVP, a 2-time Most Valuable Canadian, and a 2-time Grey Cup champion. Special moment for him, crying on the field, won his first Grey Cup as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber, wins his second defeating his old team last night. Chad Kelly, another great story. Brandon Banks, a guy who's played over a decade in the CFL, was a great punt returner, kickoff returner that's morphed into one of the great receivers of the past decade in the league. He had been to 4 Grey Cups, all with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And they lost them all. And I remember them because my grandfather was a Hamilton Tiger Cat fan, and we would text, and every time the Tiger Cats seemed to find a way to lose. Fortunately for my great-grandfather, for that great man, he seemed to root for the Leafs. He seemed to root for the Tiger Cats. Didn't have a whole lot of success, but he did root for the Patriots. We had Tom Brady to rest his hat on. But Brandon Banks leaves the Tabbies. He goes to the Argonauts, the heated rival. And in his first season, in Toronto, he wins the Grey Cup. His first championship, and maybe he'll ride into the sunset. He's talked about retirement before. He's accomplished what he set out to do, finally win the ultimate champion, to win the championship, and he's done it. Over a decade in the league, you win a championship playing football. McLeod Bethel Thompson, he's 34 years old, was cut from 6 NFL teams, was cut from 2 CFL teams before he stuck around with the Argonauts. He might not have been the guy in the field with the last snap last night, but he did get them to the postseason. He did beat the Montreal Alouettes, and he led the Argonauts to the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. He started every game this season for the Toronto Argonauts. McLeod's a veteran, former Minnesota 6th-round draft pick in the NFL, and he's battled to get this opportunity and ultimately win a Grey Cup. It's a sport you don't hear a whole lot about. I personally think the CFL should play their postseason games on Saturdays. They're going to be playing every game but the Grey Cup next season on Saturdays. I think you should play the Grey Cup on Saturday night. Now you might say in Canada you got to You got to fight with hockey, who played Hockey Night in Canada Saturday night, Leafs Sabres. You can do okay with that. I didn't watch the game. I was watching college football. Sorry, Leafs fans. But that's something I think the league should do. Every playoff game should be on a Saturday, and every time, during the CFL season that conflicts with the NFL, no Sunday games. Doubleheaders on Friday nights, doubleheaders on Saturdays. Have as many eyes on your product as you can. It's just a fact. It doesn't matter what the sport is. It might be hockey, basketball, or the World Cup that started yesterday. If you are competing with the National Football League, you are going to lose. Last night, more people watched Sunday Night Football than they watched Yellowstone streaming on Paramount Plus or wherever else. 12 million people watched Yellowstone last night. Saw that number this morning. Haven't watched it since season 1. Showed it hasn't gripped me, but I know it's a big thing. Got to go watch Yellowstone. I love Kevin Costner, great actor. Don't like the show, but that just tells you Yellowstone, one of the biggest shows in the world right now. The NFL dwarfed that number. The Grey Cup is thankful. Sorry, the World Cup is thankful that they have games at 9, 11:30, and 2 today. Because that means you don't conflict with the NFL tonight, Monday Night Football. Thankfully, it's going to be late in Qatar, and that won't conflict with the product that would still trump the World Cup, the biggest sporting event in the world. Well, not in North America. I'm not the biggest football fan when it comes to soccer. To me, it's not football, it's soccer. I get they like to call it football. It's not. Football is American football. Maybe I'll call it football just to sound proper, but it's soccer. It's soccer. I'm not the biggest soccer football fan. X's and O's of soccer. This is not the podcast, but I will talk about it here. I'm getting into it. I watched the first game yesterday. I watched Qatar lose their first game in the tournament. Happy to see it. Hope they lose every game. I'll tell you, though, what's interesting. I watch these tournaments, and I don't find myself rooting for Canada, which is alarming, I will say. It's something I need to process. I've talked about this before, but it honestly scares me a little bit. But I can also honestly say, as I have my Jonah Hill therapy session here, I've never enjoyed watching sports more than I have since I started this podcast with all of you. I've enjoyed watching sports with no fandom, with no bias, with no rooting interest more than I ever have in my life. Being a fan is draining. Being a fan is chaotic. Every night I go to bed, I don't sleep because I don't really sleep. That's just my mental. But I used to be a Leaf fan. I used to die over wins and losses. I don't care anymore. There are games tonight. Winnipeg, Carolina. Toronto, the Islanders. Colorado, Dallas, the actual best game of the night. I will watch these games alongside Monday Night Football, alongside Celtics, Pelicans tonight. But I do not care who wins. It does not bother me. I'll watch the game, make notes, evaluate it, see what players are playing well, what kind of systems, all of that stuff. But it does not matter one iota who wins the game. I can leave and say, you know what, great, that was a good game, enjoyed it. This guy played like crap. And it's really enjoyable. I don't think it makes me less of a sports fan. I think I do my job better here because I'm not a sports fan. Because I'm not a fan of one team. I love the sport, not the teams in it. I think that's the difference. I'm not encouraging anybody to do this, but I will say it's a nice change of pace. It's a nice change. I watched the Grey Cup. I watched the football game last night, slipping through channels. Didn't care. Didn't care who won. And I enjoyed every damn second of it. Every Sunday I watch football for 12 to 13 hours, and I don't care who wins. It's a good existence. It's a fun existence. Works for me. Now, there were two games yesterday to me that had more significance than any other. And the two games were the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Eagles and the Indianapolis Colts. And the two favorites won these games, although the Chargers covered the number, and as did the Jeff Saturday-led Indianapolis Colts. Now, the betting angle on these games wasn't as important because I didn't gamble on them. But to me, the result is the interesting angle here. And I take different things from both games, but I wanted to touch on both. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs have the two best records in the NFL. Chiefs and Vikings are tied with 8-2, but the Chiefs are better than the Vikings, as we saw yesterday. And you look at these two teams. The Eagles are 9-1. They're coming off their first loss of the season to the Washington football team led by the Green Lizard. You got a short week and you got to go to Indianapolis to play Jeff Saturday and the Colts. That's not an easy position. The Colts are a confident team. They feel good about themselves. And the Philadelphia Eagles were just showed their weakness. They couldn't stop the run. They were beat up by the Washington Commanders, and teams feel like they know the cheat code to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. So with all that being said, you come into the game, and how did this game start? The Colts were dominating. The Colts had complete control, and Philly couldn't do anything about it. Philly finished the first half with 3 points. They had 65 yards in penalties. They had 3 drops, and Jalen Hurts was making poor throws, poor decisions. While the Colts had over 115 yards rushing, they couldn't stop the run. But the best thing you could say about Philly is they were only down 10-3. That's the best thing you could say about their position. Through all of that, you're down 10-3 at the half, and also Indy gets the football to start the second half. It's a bad situation. That's a tough one to look in the mirror. Philly ultimately wins this game 17-16. Why? Because they are too good to lose 2 in a row. They are too good to drop a game that they shouldn't again. Philly drops a divisional game to the Commanders. They were undefeated. And the thought was, are Philly really that good? Now, I saw my weakness. I saw Philly's weakness, stopping the run. But I also said it's one loss. They're the only one-loss team in the NFL. They are better. They're still the best team in the NFC currently. In particular, after seeing the Cowboys lose to the hapless Green Bay Packers. You're down 10-3. You battle to get 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, including one by Jalen Hurts where he went on a game-winning drive where he ran the ball for 45 yards. Now, you could say that they didn't trust him to throw the ball in these spots. Okay. All I know is he went down on a drive and they won the football game. In that situation, you're down 16-10. A bad team finds a way to lose. You have an opportunity to go on a game-winning drive, you fuck it up. You screw it up, you fumble, something goes wrong. The Eagles did not. They had perseverance. They ran the football. They battled. And in particular, in that second half, the Philly defense tightened up and limited the production of Jonathan Taylor and the Indianapolis Colts running game. Tim Jernigan and Ndamukong Suh were added to this defense. They were active. They played. Philly forced 2 turnovers in the second half. Looked like the game was over and A.J. Brown fumbled the football. But no, they get a 3-and-out to give the ball right back to Jalen Hurts. I saw perseverance. I saw mental toughness from this team yesterday. They had to dial in and show it, in my opinion, and they did. There are good teams in this league that would have folded like a cheap tent. Not the Philadelphia Eagles, not Jalen Hurts, not the makeup of this team. Nick Sirianni was fired up after the game, telling the Colts fans really to shove it. I love it. He's got all kinds of energy. He's wired. I think he's got the attention of this team. They lost one game. They played a bad half, but they found a way to win a close game. There are just slugfest games. There are games that you're like, wow, we played horrible, but you found a way to win that horrible football game. The Rams last year, they didn't deserve to beat the Niners in the NFC Championship game, but they found a way to. They gutted their way to that victory. Philly looks at themselves in the mirror and says, we can get to the Super Bowl because the NFC isn't that good. Look at our path. Giants, Commies, Cowboys, who we already beat, Vikings, who we've already beat. That's our competition. We can get by this. Now there's Tampa, who I think are the biggest threats lurking. I still want to see them play a few games. But I was impressed yesterday with Philly finding a way to win a game that some good teams would lose. To me, Philly's a great team because they didn't have back-to-back losses in a situation where they very well could have. Short week, you're still on the road, and you find a way to lose that game. No. Jalen Hurts said, enough. We're going to find a way to win this game, and they did. I don't care who the opponent is. Indianapolis has beaten Kansas City this season. Kansas City is the best team in football. Sometimes it's just that game, and it's a tricky opponent. You're off, but you find a way to overcome it. Now, Philly's played bad football the last 2 weeks, absolutely. And they're 1-1. They need to figure some stuff out. Offensively, they're not intact. They miss Dallas Goedert a lot. I think they need to get back to their running the football into their RPO games. Get A.J. Brown in space. Get Devontae Smith in space. These guys are botched up right now. Use your weapons all over the field. Jalen Hurts continue to take deep shots because you got these receivers that can catch the football. Their offense just looks a little tentative. It didn't look as crisp as it should be, but you still won. Yesterday was a bunch of bad football. There wasn't many great games because every team was playing like shit, Philly included. But in that shit, they found a way to win. That's impressive to me. That shows a good team. That shows mental toughness. Nick Sirianni and this Philadelphia Eagles team are still legit, and yesterday only further enhanced that opinion for me. Parallel with this thought, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. So you have the Chiefs Sunday Night Football going to Los Angeles. Chiefs who are without Juju Smith-Schuster. They're without Mecole Hardman. So you're down 2 of your starting receivers. You still got Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to play the Superchargers, who are Mike Williams is returning, Keenan Allen is returning, and Justin Herbert always plays fantastic against Patrick Mahomes. Well, Herbert did. His opening drive of the game, he threw a 50-yard touchdown pass to Canadian Joshua Palmer. Threw three more touchdowns in the game. Herbert balled out. His best game of the season, in my opinion. Chargers defense, which is banged up, got good pressure to Mahomes. Derwin James in the secondary did a good job on most guys not named Travis Kelce. Chargers played their tails off. Mahomes was a bit off in the first half, only completed 50% of his passes. But it's Patrick Mahomes and it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is now 14-0 on the road in his career against AFC West opponents, which is just absurd. That he is that dominant against his own division. He owns them, literally. So they're down late in the football game. They're down 27-23 after Herbert just put the Chargers ahead. Mahomes gets the ball, and of course, what does he do? He goes down the field. This is that weapon. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL, and he has been for some time. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, I don't care. They're not better than him. Tyreek Hill's gone. Mahomes is going to win the MVP. Tua's playing fantastic in Miami. He is. Tyreek Hill has been great. Name any player, right in ballot. I don't care who you have in your MVP frontrunner right now. Mahomes is winning it. He's the best damn player in the league, and he proves it week in and week out. So on that game-winning drive, hits 2 passes to Travis Kelce. And for the second time this season, Travis Kelce finishes a game with 3 touchdown receptions. Hits him on a slant. He gets into the end zone. They finish the game with an interception. The Chiefs go into Los Angeles and beat the Chargers 30-27. This was a division game in Los Angeles. It's tricky because Herbert always plays Mahomes tough. Oddly enough, his only win against Mahomes is at Arrowhead Stadium, but these two always seem to play very well against one another. The pass rush got to Mahomes. They did a very good job. They limited production to everybody not named Travis Kelce. Mahomes is throwing to his third-string tight end. Isaiah Pacheco was one of the big options for the Chiefs. He ran for over 100 yards last night. Sometimes you're just better than the opponent. Herbert is good, maybe great. Mahomes is a superstar. Kelce is a superstar. Keenan Allen's very good. Joshua Palmer's up and coming. But Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are Hall of Famers. The way it's going, Travis Kelce is going to be regarded as the greatest tight end to ever play the position. He will be looked at more fondly than Rob Gronkowski. He won't finish with as many Super Bowls, but he might have more touchdowns. He'll have more yards. He already has more yards. He's just a weapon like no other. I've never seen somebody like this play the tight end position and look so damn good. Yesterday could have been an easy loss. It really could have been. Because the Chargers were in control. They had a 20-13 lead at the half, and they got the ball to start the second half, just like the Indianapolis Colts did against the Eagles. What happened in both games? You're in control. You have all this momentum. The team that didn't get the ball to start the second half wins. That's down by at least a score. Both these teams are down by a touchdown to start the second half, and the opponent gets the ball first, and you find a way to win. That's impressive. That's impressive to me. Overcoming deficiencies. You're on the road. You're in a division game for the Chiefs, and you find a way to win it. 2 things have proved. Eagles are still the best team in the NFC. Definitively, for me. We'll get to number 2 in a second. In a little bit. Still the best team in the National Football League are the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the best player. Travis Kelce's the best tight end, one of the best receivers, one of the best options, period. Mahomes leads the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Travis Kelce leads the league in touchdown receptions, and he's 5th in receiving yards. Incredible stuff in Kansas City. They're 8-2. In a really good spot. to control their fate and have home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs that the Bills squandered. Impressive stuff from those two teams yesterday. Impressive stuff. That brings me to my house of horrors. The 2 o'clock window, I always like to put in an underdog parlay. And I talk to you guys about this underdog parlay every week. It's normally on Fridays. And I give you my best bets. I take you through the games and why I like each bet. So, for the 1 o'clock games, this is what I took. I took the Chicago Bears on a teaser. I got them by another 1.5, so that got to 4.5 points. So I had the Bears plus 4.5. They lost by 3 points. That's a win. Very good game against Atlanta. I'll touch on Justin Fields in a second. So that's a win. I took the Carolina Panthers plus 13 against the Baltimore Ravens. I said this was the lock of the weekend, that the Panthers would cover against the Ravens. The Panthers only put up 3 points, but Baltimore only scored 13. Lamar and that offense were abysmal. They couldn't get anything done. The pass rush for Carolina was phenomenal. Carolina loses by 10. That's a win. And that brings me to my third leg of my parlay, my underdog parlay. The New York Football Jets. I almost can't discuss this. I'm still angry. I made money in the Grey Cup last night. Thankfully, took the Argos plus 5.5. Gotta love that outright win. But I'll tell you, yesterday's game between the Jets and the Patriots was one of the worst games you'll ever see. It was Broncos level, Russell Wilson level garbage football yesterday from both quarterbacks and both teams. The Patriots, who are the most predictable team in the NFL, run outside run. Okay, get a couple yards. Mac Jones check down. Okay, and Jets miss some tackles. Nick Folk miss a couple field goals. Mac Jones taking an ill-advised sack, who got sacked 6 times yesterday behind that shitty New England Patriots offensive line. And at one point, I was watching this game because I had money on it. And I took some pretty decent notes about this game because, my God, there was nothing else to do because the game was so shit. At one point, there was 9 straight punts between the two teams, including the Jets 5 straight in the second half. The Jets finished 4 for 14 on third down. Zach Wilson finished 9 for 22 for 73 yards. And that brings me to this point. Jets get 6 sacks. They force a turnover. You give up 3 points the whole game. You put yourself in a good position to win. And Zach Wilson throws for 77 fucking yards. Fucking Zach Wilson is the title of this podcast. Zach Wilson has 4 touchdown passes on the season. Zach Wilson has no good traits. He threw 2 interceptions yesterday that were dropped. One by Devin McCourty, that was the easiest interception you'll ever see. Another one dropped by Devon Godshaw, who's a big defensive lineman. He was inaccurate. He made stupid decisions. He was nowhere on that field yesterday. He made no plays. He did nothing of consequence. And the Patriots win this awful football game on a punt return for a touchdown with 5 seconds left to fuck me over because I had Jets plus 3.5. That brings the Patriots to 6-4 and the Jets to 6-4, and the Jets are 0-2 against the Patriots this season. This Jets team, coached by Robert Saleh, who I think is actually doing a really good job, I think this management group, Joe Douglas, the ownership group, the head coach, they believe that they can make the playoffs this year, which isn't crazy. Quinnen Williams is going to be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Garrett Wilson's a great wide receiver who's frustrated as hell. I like Tyler Conklin a lot, who they brought over from Minnesota. They got James Robinson and Michael Carter, two solid running backs. Sauce Gardner, the Defensive Rookie of the Year on defense. They are a stacked roster with a nothing of a quarterback. Zach Wilson really is one of the worst quarterbacks in the entire NFL. He might be the worst one. Starter, for sure. He's got to be. He's an offense to the position. I said a number of weeks ago that if the New York Jets really wanted to make the playoffs and take that seriously, Joe Flacco should be the starting quarterback for this team. And I couldn't have been more right about anything. Joe Flacco would have put up more than 3 points yesterday, and the Jets would be 7-3, tied for the lead in the AFC East. Because they stick with Zach Wilson, because he's a shit quarterback that makes bad decisions, that's inaccurate, nothing positive about Zach Wilson, they are now last in that division. Funny how decisions can lead you down a certain path. In sports, you draft a guy high, he gets a leash. You give him all kinds of opportunities. He gets starts. He gets opportunities. And it really doesn't matter how well he plays because you're going to give him a certain amount of starts before you yank his neck. In life, if you're just a run-of-the-mill guy, you got hired at a job, but you're not that good at it. But you know what? They'll keep it for now. But if there's a budget cut, you know what? They wring your neck and you're done. New York Jets. Do you want to make the playoffs? Do you want to be in the mix? Start Joe Flacco. He was your third-string quarterback. Why? Why is Mike White elevated before him? Joe Flacco started the first 3 games of the season. This was not just one bad game from Zach Wilson. He was crap against the Buffalo Bills. He was crap in this game. He was crap in the Patriots in the first game he played against them. The Jets will be moving forward with a new quarterback next year. That's definitive to me. It's not even an opinion. He will not be their starting quarterback day 1 of next year. He has to be so frustrating to coach. He said after the game, a reporter asked him, do you feel bad for letting your defense down? He said no. How could you not feel bad? You did nothing to help them. 3 points. 3 measly points. That's all you could come up with that entire game. Next weekend, Joe Flacco should be starting. You got 7 games left. Think about your playoff chances. You're a bad organization. Zach Wilson's done. You might have taken him 2nd overall. He was a bad selection out of BYU. He was just bad. You got to own that. You got to take it on the chin. The worst trait of any kind of owner, any kind of executive, in my opinion, is your inability to own up to your failure. When you have a bad day at work, how can I put this? When you treat your friend poorly, when you do something bad in your daily life, do you own that? Or do you go home thinking that, they did something wrong? When in the back of your mind, you know that you were the one at fault. It's easy to just accept that, you know what, they were wrong. This wasn't on me. I was in the right here. They went completely over the line. That's easy. That's an angle that most people take. In business, in sports, which are parallel, you have to own your shit. You have to admit when you were wrong. The best business people can say, you know what, I'm not very good at this. I need somebody else to do it for me. I think there are a number of really good entrepreneurs that go in Shark Tank, but they might not be very good at social media. They might not be very good at accounting, anything. There are certain things they just don't excel at their business. They go see the sharks, they go to Dragon's Den, and they try to get assistance to make their business better. Joe Flacco is not a long-term solution at quarterback. He might be a $20,000 investment for 1% in your business. But 1% in that business is better than -5. And that's what Zach Wilson is bringing you production-wise right now. That Jets roster, they're not idiots. They know they got a pretty good team. I watched Garrett Wilson's body language yesterday. He was beyond frustrated. Zach Wilson was missing throw after throw. He's running route after route, and balls aren't even close to his proximity. It's a waste of a day. He's running, putting in all that work for nothing. Wasn't bad weather in New England yesterday. It was pretty clear for a November day, and you just were no good, period. That's what happened. In the third quarter, 6 seconds left. Patriots go for it on 4th and 3. Damian Harris is stuffed. I'm thinking this is the momentum builder. The Jets are going to win this game. 3-0. 3-0 off that stuff by the defense. And must be the most frustrating thing for defense today on tape. You don't lose the game. It's the punt return team that screws you over as well. Special teams lost you that game ultimately in the big moment because they couldn't cover the kick returner. I mean, the Patriots win this game, and they're 6-4 as well. They're no good. Mac Jones looks worse and worse. The only reason he looks good is because he's playing against Zach Wilson. Mac Jones was regarded as the best quarterback from his draft class last season. Mac Jones has been a complete disaster this season. He looks so shell-shocked. He looks completely not prepared. And he's getting coached by two guys that are not offensive-minded coaches, and it shows. The Patriots' game plan is so predictable. There's no creativity. Like I said, outside run, screen pass to a tight end, and little dump off to Devontae Parker. That's their offense. There's no deep shots. There's no creativity. It's Mac Jones, and he's missing. He went 23 for 27 yesterday. Okay, great. They were inconsequential yards. Patriots are 6-4. Jets are 6-4, and I don't trust either team. I don't trust either quarterback. I like the coaching better in the Jets, and the Patriots have a worse roster. But Mac Jones is a little bit better than Zach Wilson. Not much. Robert Saleh likely does not have the power or the ultimate decision to bench Zach Wilson. That power will be given to general manager or even higher up, the owner. Because Zach Wilson was the second overall pick in the draft, and you're not benching the second overall pick in the draft for a journeyman quarterback who's likely done after this season. Biting your hand to spite your face is what that is. It's stupid. It makes no sense. And again, I talked off the top, I'm not a fan of any team. If you're a Jet fan and Zach Wilson is playing quarterback this Sunday, you should be pissed off. And I believe the Jets have a home game. I'd fucking boo because he shouldn't be out there. Like I say, is have fun, Zach Wilson, in film study this week. Have fun with that defense on the field during practice because you said you didn't let them down. You fucking let them down. Own up to your fault. Own up to your bad play. Because in life, sometimes you can overcome something really bad that happens, a poor situation, if you just admit it. That's half the battle, is showing that person that you really care about, you know what, I was wrong here. I screwed up. I was horrible. I was no good, but can I get another opportunity to do this? Guys, we should have won that game, but it was me, the reason that we didn't. Zach Wilson would have came in with that approach, all true. I think his teammates have a little bit more respect for him. He took the petulant way out. He took the, you know what? I look like a 12-year-old kid, and I'm sitting here at the podium, and I'm a little petulant. And guess what? No, I don't know the defense and apology at all. I played great. 9 for 22, 77 yards. That's great. Yeah. The Jets have had the same problem forever. It's a quarterback problem. They actually have a good roster now, and they don't have a quarterback to go along with it. That's the shame of it all. They will be in the quarterback market this offseason looking for Zach Wilson's replacement. Is it a veteran? Is it a youngster? I don't know. They're winning too many games to get a high pick in the draft. It might be a veteran quarterback. Does Derek Carr end up in New York? Wouldn't rule it out. Could Aaron Rodgers become a New York Jet? Like his old buddy Brett Favre did back in the day. Wouldn't that be fun? If those two guys could go down the same career path. Maybe. Does Geno Smith go back to the Jets? Unlikely, but you never know. There's only so many quarterbacks to go around, and that's the thing. A lot of these guys keep a job longer than they should because there's simply not enough talent to go around. Joe Flacco, Mike White, Gardner Minshew Jr. II, Teddy Bridgewater, Carson Wentz, Cooper Rush, Tyrod Taylor, Davis Mills are all better options than Zach Wilson at this point. That's where this is for the Jets. A dark pit of despair that only ends in hurt and likely missing the playoffs because of these two games against the Patriots where Zach Wilson was god-awful in both. He's the reason you lose both games, 2 division games. He's the key reason you take an L in both. Well, moving on. Last week, the Dallas Cowboys took a beating. Well, not really. Game went into overtime, but they lost the game to the Green Bay Packers, where a team they should beat. So Dallas loses in Green Bay, and they have to stay on the road and head to Minnesota to play the Vikings, who are coming off their biggest win in some time, maybe since the Minnesota Miracle, beating the Buffalo Bills in dramatic fashion. The Vikings are tied with the Eagles for the best record in the NFC heading into this week, and they have all the momentum in the world. Well, that was wiped from them about a minute and 45 seconds into the game yesterday. Because simply the Cowboys came to play and the Vikings were not ready for it. Dallas finished the day yesterday with 6 sacks. They forced 2 fumbles. Micah Parsons had 2.5 sacks. Doris Armstrong had a sack and a half and a fumble recovery. And the offense played well too. Minnesota had no answer for what Dallas brought to the table. Christian Darrisaw left with a concussion. The center left also for the Vikings. Their offensive line did not know what to do. It was Dante Fowler. It was Dorrance Armstrong. It was Micah Parsons. It was DeMarcus Lawrence. That front killed the Minnesota Vikings offensive line. Killed them. Justin Jefferson ended the day with 3 receptions for 33 yards, the best receiver in the NFL. Kirk Cousins was pulled from the game midway through the third quarter. This game was removed off CBS midway through the third quarter, replaced by Bengals Steelers. The Dallas loss to Green Bay was alarming for me. And it was such a typical Dallas loss where their team looks great. I'm starting to buy in. I love their defense. And they lay an egg. And I start to get worried. I said, well, why was I so high on these Dallas Cowboys? Why did I think they were the second best team in the NFC? Well, they responded yesterday. You go to Minnesota, a one-loss team, and you are a road favorite, and they won 40-3. They mollywopped the Vikings. It was a no contest. It was one great team and one team that happened to be on the field at the same time. For Dallas, this is their ingredient. Play great defense and have a great run-to-pass ratio. But also, I saw a number of great things I loved from the Dallas offense yesterday. They were starting to use Tony Pollard in the pass game. He ran a wheel route that ended up in a 68-yard touchdown reception. CeeDee Lamb was used on go routes down the field. He's incredibly tough to cover. They got flags down the field that resulted in chunk yardage. They used the entire field. Michael Gallup had 2 touchdown receptions, and he looked like the old Michael Gallup yesterday coming back from ACL surgery. He looked like he had that jump again. He had that hop in his step. That was his best game of the season. Nothing was bad yesterday for Dallas. A minute and 45 seconds in, Minnesota starts with the football. Micah Parsons gets a strip sack, forces a fumble, recovered by Dallas. Results in a field goal. I love the way they played this game. Dallas they know, and this is the biggest thing with Dallas for me. My 2 biggest worries with this team are coaching and consistency at the quarterback position. Coaching. You know what you're good at. You know that Micah Parsons should be a pass rusher every snap he's on the field. Do not put him in coverage. Ever! Do not put him at the linebacker. Put him at the line of scrimmage to charge after left tackles because he is such a damn menace. Let him do what he does because he's so damn good at it. Just let him maximize his potential. Do what he does best. And you got all kinds of guys that can come in and rotate. Dorrance Armstrong's my guy. I love him to death. He's such an underrated player. DeMarcus Lawrence still has game. Dante Fowler. Everybody can just come in, get their chances, get their reps, get their sacks. Love it. Trayvon Diggs has gotten better. I talked about that all year at locking up guys. He's still not perfect, but he's better at the corner position than he was last year. Know your strength defense. So Dan Quinn, know that. My bigger concern about coaching is the offensive position. Dallas, you are not Kansas City. You are not Tampa Bay. Do not pass 40 times and run 20. Ballots. 60 plays, go 30-30. And those 30 carries, 20 of them should be going to Tony Pollard at least. Tony Pollard is the feature back for the Dallas Cowboys, not Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott is your red zone back, short yardage. 3rd and 1, you bring him in. And he's Walter the refrigerator pair, and he plows ahead and gets a few yards. That's what he is. He's your horse. He's your guy that just gets an inch, you get the first down. First quarter yesterday, he had 1 carry for 1 yard that resulted in a touchdown. Perfect. Red zone, short yardage, that's Zeke. Otherwise, any other run play, unless you're doing a design run for Dak or you're giving the ball to Noah Brown or CeeDee Lamb, it is going to Tony Pollard because he is the more skilled player. He's the better running back currently. Ezekiel Elliott is not the Heisman Trophy winner that came out of The Ohio State. He's not that guy anymore. So know that, maximize his potential. Yes, he makes a lot of money. And Jerry probably hates seeing him not in the field that often for a guy that makes that much money. I don't care. It's about winning a Super Bowl. It's about being in the best position to win a Super Bowl. So coaching, Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore, don't overthink it. Know your strengths, and more importantly, understand your weaknesses and play around them. Dak he had open receivers. He hit them in stride. He ran the football. I love seeing this is Dak Prescott at his best. He saw what was there and he'd take off. He didn't look afraid to run. Last year and even parts of this season, he was afraid to run coming off his ankle injury. He looked comfortable on design runs yesterday. RPOs where he just kept it under his belly and ran for the first down. Love that. Love that from Dak Prescott. Do more of that. Be comfortable in that spot to just say, I'm going to keep this. We need to get this yardage. I'm gonna go for it. He made quick, decisive throws. They were on target. Matt Stafford's not the best quarterback in the NFL. He won the Super Bowl last year. Jimmy Garoppolo's gotten to a Super Bowl. He's not even close to being the best quarterback in the NFL. Guys, you get there from your team more often than not because your team was successful. Your defense was great. You got good. And as I look at the NFC, I still have the Eagles number one. They've beaten the Cowboys. They've beaten the Vikings. They've done everything you'd want from a great. They've also beat the Giants. So the Eagles remain number one. To me, number two, it's a toss-up, but I'm going on body of work so far. I will give it back to the Dallas Cowboys currently because I've seen them play really well in a number of games. I've seen them have a formula to win. I know their defense is elite. And the way their pass rush works, they can shut down anybody. You're going to need an elite offensive line to deal with this team. And by the way, they stopped the run yesterday. Dalvin Cook was a non-factor in the game, who's a great running back in his own right. So you got a strong quarterback, you got a great defense, you got a running game, your coaching's decent. So I have the Cowboys at number 2 in the NFC power rankings right now. Number 3, I have Tampa Bay. To me, Tampa's the sleeping giant, and I need to see more from them. That's why I can't put them at number 2. But they scare the hell out of me because they got Tom Brady. They're starting to feel more confident, and they have a really easy path the rest of the season. The Falcons won yesterday, so that keeps the Falcons a game back of the Buccaneers. So that's some pressure. But again, the Falcons and Marcus Mariota are not going to scare Tom Brady. They just aren't. But I also think Dallas's defense is better than Tampa. Shaq Barrett is out for the season. I love Devin White, who's played phenomenal. Levante David still has juice. So with the receiving threats, I think the receiving core on Tampa when healthy is better than Dallas's. That's a toss-up for me. They played the first night of the season. Then I would have Minnesota for now. But again, I had San Francisco to make the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season. Before the season started, I picked San Francisco to get there. I still have my doubts about them. They don't play great football all the time. They could have easily lost to the Chargers last Sunday night. To me, the NFC is wide open because I think the Eagles can be had, but I still think they are the best team. Where in the AFC, it is the Chiefs and everybody else. It's Mahomes and everybody else. The Bills are far behind the Chiefs. Currently, the Dolphins have the second seed in the AFC. Then you have the Titans are also 7-3, and the Bills are 7-3. But the Bills are a wild card in more ways than one. They won a game yesterday in Detroit that they barely got to. Saturday, they flew at 4 p.m. because of the snow, 120 to 130 centimeters in Buffalo over the weekend. I'll tell you, if anything's going to make me move in life and just say, you know what, fuck this, it would be 120 to 130 centimeters of snow or having to wear a mask again. Those two things would drive me over the edge, and I would move right to Florida, right to DeSantis country, and I would just have to embrace it. Because those two things just sound completely fucking horrible right now. Can you imagine 120, 130 centimeters of snow and it's November 21st? You got 5 more months of that. We're going to get snow here in New Brunswick eventually. I get it. But if 130 centimeters, 130 centimeters of snow, that is pure. I can't even think of something that would be worse torture for me. Go outside, shovel all that, and then it's there for 6 months. You get more and more snow. It's free. You're freezing your ass off. My God. Prayers to the people in Buffalo. How you live there, I don't know. Summers must be fantastic because that is pure just torture. 130 centimeters of snow. Get the fuck out of here. Me and my dad made a pact today. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but I'm doing it. I mentioned it before. Because I like to talk about my life on the show. Brings it full circle. In Ontario, they're discussing putting masks back into circulation. Don't know why. Maybe COVID numbers are up. I don't really give a shit. If I was sick, I wouldn't take a test. If people are sick, I wouldn't take a test either. Don't understand. If you want to wear a mask in public, I have no problem with that. I work in retail. I see people wear them all the time. Good for you. But if there's another mask mandate after it's almost 2023. If there's a mask mandate on flights again, any of this crap, my God, we need to move the fuck on. Find something else to care about, please. Some stupid social something. Find a pet. Save a dog. Shovel some snow. Fly to Buffalo. Go shovel a driveway. I don't care. But please, government officials, do not make me put a mask back on because, quite frankly, I'm not going to. Enough with these safety guidelines. Sometimes it's fun to live dangerously. It's not even fucking living not wearing a mask. Fuck the PPE. Blaine Higgs, are you listening? Testing. Testing 1, 2, please. No more masks. Please. That's all I ask. No 130 centimeters of snow. No masks. That's not that much to ask. I'm not asking for a Corvette. I'm not asking for a Beamer. I could ask for so much more for Christmas. But this is what I'm asking. To the big guy, this is Noah. I've been okay this year. Never been great in a year. Been okay. To semi-bad. But what I'm asking for, no 130 centimeters of snow ever in my lifetime wherever I'm living. That's breaking contract. And no masks again. In particular, right now. Please, 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 please. Thank you for indulging me, people, but I had to get that off my chest. Yesterday, the Jets screwed me betting. Lost that parlay, but I made it up on the Argos last night, plus 5.5. What an experience that is. When you lose money on the Jets, but you put money on the Grey Cup and you find out you win it, you cover the number. My God, what a feeling, I'll tell you. It's so frustrating gambling. It's a frustrating time because I'll go back to a few other games this weekend. I knew that the stupid Detroit Lions are going to beat the New York. I said it on Friday. I said I had this feeling the betting line was weird. It was a 3-point ball game. And I said the Detroit Lions, who I still have it as a futures bet, over 5.5 wins, which I feel phenomenal about hitting. Backdoor hit that. Love it. They are now at 4 wins. My God. But I said, I knew it on Friday. I said, Detroit's going to win this game. The Giants are not a good team. They're the worst 7-2 team in NFL history. Detroit goes in there and just blows their head off. Beats them in. Jamal Williams has 12 rushing touchdowns. That's most in the NFL. Dan Campbell and the crew have won 3 straight. They're playing good football, and Jamison Williams, their first-round wide receiver selection, 12th overall, returned to practice today. Might even make his debut Thanksgiving against the Bills. I regret not taking the Detroit Lions in a parlay because I knew they were going to win. But I get 2 more Lions wins this season. I hit my over on the 5.5 total wins, and that is a winner for yours truly. Other news, Saints beat the Rams in a meaningless game, but Matthew Stafford suffered a concussion for the 2nd straight game. I said on Friday he should not start a game the rest of the season. I hate to be right because a player gets another concussion, but why? For your pride? Again, this is organizations biting their hand to spite their face. Enough. Don't play this guy. You're not making the playoffs. Cooper Kupp is up. Your team stinks. Your offensive line is an embarrassment. Just own the fact that you won a Super Bowl last year. You're no good this year. See if you can retool Stafford next season. Stafford won't play another snap this season. There's a prediction for you. Bryce Perkins, John Wolford, get ready to take some reps. Green Lizard wins his 4th straight start, and he was confirmed by Ron Rivera to be their starting quarterback moving forward. In a really cool interview after the game he had with, it might have been Christina Pink of Fox, where it was Jen Hale of Fox, where he got emotional talking about his journey to this point to being named the official starting quarterback moving forward. And nobody loves the Green Lizard more than me. The guy just keeps winning games. It was no decision. Ron Rivera, it's Taylor Heineke or nothing at this point. Carson Wentz was not getting back behind center. This team believes in Taylor Heineke. The Commies are 6-5. The Commies are 6-5. The Commies are 6-5. And they are in a good position. They got a game this weekend. It's with a team that has a losing record. I'm forgetting the team now. Then they have 2 straight against the Giants. Don't rule out the Commies, like I said last week, to make the playoffs. Bills defeat the Browns. They're now 7-3. They get a win. They play the Lions on Thursday, Thanksgiving, Turkey Day. Falcons edge the Bears 27-24. Justin Fields is 5th in the NFL in rushing. 3rd in the NFL in rushing. He's got over 800 rushing yards this season. Now, I hear most of the analysts say this is not sustainable. Justin Fields, of course it's not sustainable. That's obvious. That's okay, great. It's great analysis. Justin Fields is running this much because his receivers stink. He's got nobody that can catch. Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney are his only options. Period. And by the way, he slid. That became a forced fumble. That should have been a roughing the passer penalty because he slid and he hit him. But again, it's a rushing quarterback. He doesn't get benefit of the doubt. If you're a stationary quarterback like Brady, you'll get that call. He doesn't get it. Falcons recover the fumble. Falcons survive and win 27-24. They're still in the mix in the NFC. I thought the Bears would win that game. I took the Chiefs plus 4.5. I'll take that win betting-wise, although the Jets screwed me, so it doesn't matter. But Justin Fields is going to keep running. That's his game because you know why? Because the receivers on his team suck. He has nobody that he can trust to throw the ball to. He's forced to run the football. That's just the way it is right now. The narrative that Justin Fields can't play or he can't play from the pocket, whatever kind of stupid narrative you want to throw out, it's not true. Because you have to look at the entire team. You have to look at his situation and take it head on. Who's in a better situation, Zach Wilson or Justin Fields? I'll tell you, it's Zach Wilson. With Garrett Wilson, with Denzel Mims, with Tyler Conklin, with James Robinson, with receivers on that skill position players all over the field, and Justin Fields has Darnell Mooney, who might be a number 3 receiver on a really good team, and Cole Kmet, who's a blocking tight end on a good team. He's got nobody. We'll see what the Bears can do to add some good pieces to that team this offseason. Then we'll know what Justin Fields is as a quarterback. Until then, we know he's damn talented, and I've seen signs that this guy can fucking ball. Period. Tonight, Monday Night Football. It is a game in Mexico City, another destination game where the 49ers and Cardinals will meet, a division game. This morning, Cliff Kingsbury announced that Kyler Murray will miss his second straight game and that veteran backup Colt McCoy will get his second straight start. Following this news, it was initially an 8-point spread for the Niners. Niners were 8-point favorites. It is now 10-point. The Niners are now 10-point favorites against the Cardinals. This is essentially a neutral field game. No home field advantage. You're playing in Mexico City. But again, we saw this basically last Monday night, where the Commies played the Eagles. Similar spread, big spread, and the Eagles were undefeated going into the game. Now, the Niners aren't undefeated, but they're viewed as one of the most talented rosters in the NFL, which I agree with. But at the same time, Colt McCoy had success last week against the Rams. He's looked more comfortable in that offense than Kyler Murray does, quite frankly. And it's a divisional game. Divisional games are close. Things happen in them that you can't always predict. Seattle was an underdog against Arizona. They went into Arizona and won the game outright. Rams went into LA, beat the Rams outright as an underdog. I've seen it. Commies did it. The Lions did it to the Packers. The Bears didn't do it to the Packers. The Vikings did it to the Packers. I mean, it's happened all over the NFL, where underdog teams find a way to win these games. Unless you're the Jets. Ugh. So, with that being said, tonight's pick, and this is an easy one, is Cardinals plus 10. Tonight, the Cardinals might win this football game, quite frankly, with Colt McCoy at quarterback. I don't love the Cardinals at all. I think they're a really bad, flawed football team. DeAndre Hopkins does not look like the same player since he got caught doing steroids. He can't stick the needles in his ass anymore. He's not quite as explosive. He's dropping the football. Funny how that works. The offense in Arizona is not quite as great. They cut Benjamin. He's no longer on this team. They still got James Conner. They got some good weapons. But the offense is always disjointed. Cliff Kingsbury always looks puzzled on the sideline despite him calling the plays. So that worries me. But I mentioned the Chargers, who were undermanned last Sunday. They covered the number against the 49ers. Teams cover. Denver covered against the Niners. They won that game outright. The Niners don't always put up a whole lot of points, but they win close football games. That's why I look at this. Yeah, it's a 10-point spread. But at the beginning of the season, Jimmy Garoppolo was a backup quarterback. Colt McCoy is a backup quarterback. So technically you have a battle of two backup quarterbacks tonight. In a neutral field, no home field advantage. Give me the Cardinals plus 10. That is the pick. Cardinals plus 10. This week on the show, we'll have a lot coming. Thursday, Matt Wright's going to make his return to the show. We will preview the games this weekend. Talk about all the different things. Talk about it's a big weekend in college coming up as well. Wednesday, I will chat about the Turkey games, the Turkey Day games, which Thursday, if you didn't know, is American Thanksgiving. We have 3 football games that day. Detroit Lions will host the Buffalo Bills, which I'm already excited to bet on that game. And I'm betting on an underdog. Second game, we have the New York Football Giants heading to Dallas to play the Dallas Cowboys. And we finish the night with the New England Patriots heading to Minnesota to play Kirk D. Cousins in primetime. My God. Patriots are going to be 7-4, aren't they? 3, it's a good Turkey Day slate. I like all 3 games. The Lions are now winning games. They're interesting again. Cowboys and Lions always play at Thanksgiving. Still makes no sense to me, but whatever. That won't change. I can't change the fact that it's stupid. So lots happening. Lots happening this week. Matt Wright will join. Wednesday we'll do that show. Seamus will be on tomorrow. We'll talk about a number of different things. As always. As I'm seeing this here, I get some updates. Close game alert. The United States and Wales are tied 1-1 late in the second half of their Group B matchup. Tell you, I think the United States would be happy to take a draw today with Wales. They'd be thrilled to get a draw because, quite honestly, the United States got a really nice bracket. Canada was put in a really, really tough group with Belgium and Croatia. To me, I'm not a soccer expert, but I do know enough. If Canada gets one win at this World Cup, if they can beat Morocco in their last game, if they can score a couple goals, that will be a successful World Cup before we prime for 2026, where we are one of the host countries. That is really what I think should be the goal for Canada, is just compete, see if you can battle with Belgium, battle with Croatia a little bit. Yeah, if the U.S., that would be a massive win mentally for the U.S. If they can get a draw with Wales today, I think they'll take that every day of the week and they'll run with it to the bank. They'd be thrilled. Also today, England dominated Iran. They won 6-1. And this afternoon, the Netherlands sneaked past Senegal 2-0 with 2 late goals. So like I said, England, big win to start the day. The Netherlands win, and now we have a draw late in the third and final match of the day. So all the favorites so far today, betting-wise, have won. Canada starts their tournament Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m., I believe. It might be 3 p.m. here local. Yeah, 3 p.m. Atlantic against Belgium. Then they play Sunday morning at noon against Croatia. And they finish Thursday, might be afternoon again, against Morocco. That'll be their last game of the group stage. Hopefully, it's not their last game of the tournament and they can get out of the group. I doubt it. How the World Cup works, if you're unfamiliar, the top 2 teams from each group advance to the knockout stage. Then we get into winning you're in type games, quarterfinals, things of that nature. The tournament runs from November 20th to December 18th or December 19th. So it's a month in Qatar. It's currently summer in Qatar. It's 26 degrees Celsius today there. Checked this morning. They're already having trouble. You can't buy beer. The English hooligans, the system for their tickets was not working this morning. Many fans did not get into that game. People were losing it. So just all kinds of chaos in Qatar. If you're making any kind of social statement, they got journalists telling people to shut up. They're cutting them from cameras. It's quite an operation over there in Qatar. Let's just say this. Saudi Arabia is not known for their human rights, not known for their free speech. And they're definitely putting the silencer on a lot of different people over there right now. But again, World Cup, people are going to watch it, of course, in Qatar. They might not be able to drink a beer over there, but they're watching their hooligans play some football. So excited for that. Of course, Canada opening on Wednesday. This weekend. College football, my friends. College football. It was a whirlwind. Saw some interesting games. Ohio State just avoided a loss to Maryland. But it was the 1 o'clock slate that was chaotic. And I got it written down here on the timeline. I'm watching TCU, Baylor, and Illinois and Michigan at the same time. So we're late in the fourth quarter. It's late in the fourth quarter, and Baylor's up 28-20. TCU then goes down on a touchdown drive led by Max Duggan, who had a pretty good game to that point. He got sacked a number of times, receivers had some drops. But TCU has come back in 4 games to win, and they just have fought and scratched their way to this position all year long. So they're down 28-20, go on touchdown drive 28-26. They fail a 2-point conversion because the running back in the slot drops just a walk-in 2-point convey. They are down 28-26. Well, TCU defense toughens up, gets a 3-and-out, tough 3-and-out, 4th and 2. Baylor decides to punt. TCU gets the ball back with 1 minute and 48 seconds. 1 timeout. They go on drive. They go on a big drive, big plays down the field, hits Seth Williams down the field. So with 17 seconds and one of the craziest decisions I've ever seen with no timeouts, TCU runs the football. Running back gets about 7 yards. This is on 3rd down. So it's 4th down. You can't spike it. Out comes the kick team. Baylor has a timeout, but they think TCU is going to run out of time or the field goal kicker will botch it. So no, you can't spike it. You got to get out there with 2 seconds left. They hike the ball. He kicks it through the uprights. TCU wins it on a walk-off field goal, 29-28 at the buzzer, to improve to 11-0 on the season. They got Iowa State this weekend, and then they'll have the Big 12 championship game. If they win both those games, they are going to the college football playoff. Book it. Craziness. At the same time, the Illini are playing Michigan. Michigan loses their best player, and really their only offensive player that's worth a fuck, Blake Corum, in the second quarter to a knee injury. J.J. McCarthy's a mess. He can't complete a pass. This offense is going nowhere. But again, the Michigan defense is good. They get a sack on Tommy DeVito. Michigan gets the ball back. And in the last 3 minutes, Michigan ends up getting 2 field goals, including Jake Moody hitting the game winner from 35 yards out with 13 seconds left to give Michigan a 19-17 lead that also makes them 11-0. Michigan survives an ugly game that they easily could have lost. They should have lost, really. Illinois played tough. But both these teams improved to 11-0 and still control their destinies. At 4:30, Ohio State played pretty poor against Maryland. They survived that game. Ohio State played bad. Baylor played bad. Michigan played bad. But all 3 teams win. Georgia also had a tough game against Kentucky. Kentucky had they had 3 drives that ended on 4th down. And if Will Levis, who I liked a whole lot more before the season, completed some passes, Kentucky would have upset number 1 Georgia on Saturday afternoon, but they did not. So that did not happen. Then we get to the 8 o'clock game. South Carolina Gamecocks against the Tennessee Volunteers. How about 66-31 South Carolina? The biggest win for the Gamecocks in some time. Spencer Rattler, former Oklahoma quarterback, known as the guy that's going to be the first overall pick in last year's draft that was a bust that had to transfer, 6 touchdown passes, game of his career. They went on 8 consecutive drives with touchdowns. To make it worse, Hendon Hooker, Heisman frontrunner for the Tennessee Volunteers, tore his ACL in the end of the 4th quarter, done for the season. Heartbreaking for the guy. That was his last college game he will declare for the NFL draft after the season. So with all that happening, they all win. The one-loss Tennessee team who controlled their destiny, who had an easier schedule, quite frankly, loses to South Carolina. USC defeats UCLA in a massive game late in the day. USC still has 1 loss, and they're in a great position. So here's where we stand. Georgia remains the number 1 team in the country. Ohio State remains number 2. Michigan and TCU. The top 4 has not changed, but we are heading into the last weekend of the college football season where every team will play. Because after this week, the next weekend, so after this Saturday, the following weekend are conference championship games. So TCU will be playing in the Big 12 championship game. And this weekend, Ohio State and Michigan play one another at 1 o'clock. The winner of that game will be going to the college football playoff. Lock, set in stone, because their opponent in the Big Ten championship game will be a cupcake. It'll be Illinois. It'll be Nebraska. It'll be some shit Iowa, possibly, who find ways to win games. They'll crush whoever they play. Ohio State and Michigan will play Saturday afternoon, and somebody will win that game. The winner will go to the playoff. The loser will have one loss. TCU has Iowa State. TCU is going to win that game. It might be close, but I think they win it again. And Georgia, they might have a cupcake opponent. They don't have a tough team. They might have a bye, but they will win their game easily. So that means after this weekend, Georgia will be undefeated. Ohio State or Michigan will be undefeated. TCU will remain undefeated, and then we will have LSU with 2 losses, who will play Georgia in 2 weeks. USC with 1 loss. Their 1 loss coming to a 3-loss Utah. And Michigan or Ohio State with 1 loss. I'll tell you, I think USC is better than Michigan for sure. Without Blake Corum, Michigan is not an elite team. They're not a team that can threaten you offensively. Blake Corum's that whole team. And that J.J. McCarthy does not scare you throwing the football. Period. Just doesn't. He's not accurate. He doesn't know the ball down the field. And they don't trust him in big situations to throw the football also. LSU will play Georgia. Brian Kelly, will give it his all. They beat Alabama a number of weeks ago. They will be ready to play in that game. I don't think they can beat Georgia. Maybe they will, but I don't think they can. So that means LSU will have 3 losses. They will be out. It'll be down to USC, Michigan, Ohio State. I think it'll be Michigan next, especially now with Corum's injury. I think Ohio State wins that game on Saturday. And Clemson will likely have 1 loss. Clemson's not getting to the playoff. They have a history of getting there. They're not a good team. I think USC is going to get that 4th spot because I think TCU is going to remain undefeated. I think TCU will get in over Michigan, which is crazy to say because USC has been a program that's been irrelevant for some time. But Lincoln Riley and, more importantly, Caleb Williams has turned around that team. I said Mahomes is the lock to win the MVP. Caleb Williams is becoming a lock to win the Heisman Trophy for me. The way some of these throws this kid can make is truly impeccable. Another reason USC will be propped up even more, folks, USC has Notre Dame this weekend. They need to beat them and need to beat them convincingly because Michigan's only loss will be to Ohio State, who will make the playoff. It's tough. It's a tough sell. But to me, USC, say it's Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, because they're undefeated, and USC. I think Georgia-USC will be a funner game than Georgia-Michigan. We saw Georgia-Michigan last year. It was not a competitive semifinal. It was a blowout. The game was over at halftime. I think the committee will take that into consideration. It's different teams, but is it really? J.J. McCarthy was on the Michigan roster last year. So was Cade McNamara. So was Blake Corum. Caleb Williams was not on USC. Lincoln Riley was not coaching USC. And Lincoln Riley has a history of getting to the college football playoff. If he has another Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, I'm just saying. We have 2 weeks to figure this out. Matt Wright and I will discuss it later in the week in great detail. As a matter of fact, he just texted me confirming to do Thursday. We'll do Thursday afternoon. Can't wait for that. We'll talk all this college. I want to get into all these details because I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks, and I want to get his thoughts on everything and where he thinks the committee will go. We'll preview every game that day. Tonight in the NHL, lots of games. You got Leafs, Islanders, you got Winnipeg, Carolina. Boston, Tampa Bay is an interesting game for me. Game of the night, Colorado, Dallas, 2 of the best teams. Both teams playing phenomenal right now. That's an interesting one for me. So lots to watch tonight, lots to take in. Seamus is on tomorrow. We'll talk some NBA. I want to talk some NBA with him tomorrow. We haven't chatted NBA in a hot minute. I want to get his thoughts on the Sixers. His Celtics continue to roll. I'll talk Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving coming back. Just injuries across the league. A lot of big players are out right now. We'll recap the Leafs game tomorrow with Seamus and everything in between. So glad to be back following a big weekend. We'll talk to you guys all tomorrow. As always, this is To The Point.